بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. This discussion is on the theme of the household, the theme of the Muslim household, which has to be a taqwa, the fear of Allah Jalla wa Ala. That, as we say, everybody has to be on the same page. Taqwa. We have to agree on a way that we're going to deal with life. The man and the woman, the leaders of the households, the husband and the wife, have to agree on how are we going to deal with issues. How are we going to live? If we're going to live by Quran and Sunnah, then it has to be on Taqwa. And everything is going to be stemmed from that. If we're using the Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as our guide, as the guidelines, then life is going to go a certain way. And if we're using something else, then life is going to go another way. But it got to be agreed on between the husband and the wife that we're trying to establish a household based on a taqwa. So firstly, we have to agree on what it is exactly a taqwa. What does it mean to fear Allah Jalla wa Ala? Because a taqwa is something that we always hear. To fear Allah is something we always hear. But that doesn't remove the importance of it. That doesn't remove the importance of it, as this is something that Allah commanded in the Quran. As He said, Jalla wa Ala, وَلَقَدْ وَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَنِ اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. أَنِ اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. As Allah said, we commanded those who we gave the book to before you, and you yourselves to fear Allah Jalla wa Ala, to have fear of Allah. Allah said in another ayat, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And the good ending is for those who have a taqwa, the fear of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Once we agree on what a taqwa is, once the parents come to the realization and conclusion, okay, we're trying to raise and build an Islamic household, a household built on obedience to Allah Jalla wa Ala. Right? Number one, we got to know what is a taqwa, because number one, if the husband and the wife don't have the same understanding of what a taqwa is, then there's always going to be a problem. And this is why many times the ulama, before they start discussing the issue, in whatever chapter it is, they always come with the ta'rif. They always start off with the definition of that specific chapter. So for example, if it's kitab al-salat or tahara, what is tahara? Before we start talking about tahara, what is tahara? What tahara are we talking about? Then they'll give the meaning in the Arabic language, general meaning, then the meaning specific to what the chapter is about. What's the benefit in that? If we just start discussing issues, it's possible what I consider tahara is one thing, and what the reader considers tahara, purification, is something else. There's no guarantee that our understanding of the kalima, of the word, is the same until we come to a conclusion with each other that this is what we're talking about. Right? You with me? So they go kitab al-salat, and they'll define salat. Right? They'll give the definition of the salat. Everybody knows what salat means? Huh? Prayer. The prayer. Jade. Anybody else? Huh? Congregation. The congregational prayer. Jade. It is. Salat is the prayer. Salat is the congregational prayer. What else? Huh? Jade. Dua. Dua. Now the question is, prayer, congregational prayer, dua. Which one are we talking about? You with me? All of them are right. But which one are we talking about right now so that we can move on and start discussing in detail what we're talking about? In order to do that, we got to agree on one of these definitions first before we can go anywhere else. And that's why the books are laid out like that. Because salat means dua. Right? Salat means dua. So, one of my nephews one time, I said, did you pray, man? He said, I made dua. Right? Salat means dua, but when they talk about kitab al-salat, they're not talking about that one. So you got to be clear on what we're talking about. Clear? So they give a whole definition for the salat to the end of it. Anyway, same idea applies here. A taqwa, it's possible that we can have 3-4 different meanings of what it means to fear Allah. And there's a bunch of definitions of what fearing Allah means. And a lot of times, another issue is using the English word to define an Islamic term. Using the English word to describe an Islamic term. Where in general, a taqwa means a little more than fear. It means a little bit more than fear. Point being, once we agree on the definition, then we can look and see how does the definition apply inside of the home. After we agree on the definition, what is taqwa? What is fear of Allah? Then after that, we can move on to, okay, what does it look like inside the house? It says, التقوى العمل بطاعة الله تبارك وتعالى إيمانا واحتسابا أمرا ونهيا. That it is to obey Allah Jalla wa Ala with iman while doing it, seeking Allah's reward while doing it, whether it be fulfilling a command that Allah gave us or staying away from something that Allah prohibited for us. Right? Obeying Allah with iman. At the same time, obeying Him, seeking His reward. Knowing that if I do this, being obedient, my reward is with Allah. Whether Allah commanded me to do something, like the salah, or Allah commanded me to stay away from something. Like, staying away from what? Zina, riba, eating pork. Right? All of those things, keep the definition with you, because when we move inside of the house, when we move inside of the household, the definition got to be with you. You got to keep it with you fresh so that you know how we're going to apply taqwa inside of the home. That's one definition. He says, I'm sorry. So the slave, فَيَعْمَلُ الْعَبْدُ مَا أَمْرَهُ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى بِهِ إِيمَانًا بِالْوَعْدِ. So the person, from fearing Allah, a taqwa, we say fear Allah for everything. You like fear Allah. Your wife tell you, fear Allah, akhi. Right? Or you tell your wife, fear Allah, sis. We use that. But it says, يَعْمَلُ الْعَبْدُ مَا أَمْرَهُ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى بِهِ إِيمَانًا بِالْوَعْدِ. That the person obeys Allah, believing in the promise that Allah has given for the person who obeys Him. The taqwa. Fear of Allah, that a person is obedient and they believe by being obedient that they're going to gain Allah's reward. طيب. وَيَتْرُكْ مَا نَهَاهُ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ إِيمَانًا بِالْوَعِيدِ خَوْفًا مِنَ الْعُقُوبَةِ. And also, staying away from what Allah made haram, believing in the threat, and having fear of the punishment. Right? So a person stays away from the haram, believing that the threat of Allah is true. For the person who does this, the punishment is this. A person believes that and they have fear of the punishment. This is from taqwa, so they stay away from whatever that prohibition is. And the problem we have now, a lot of the prohibitions have become norms, have become normal behavior inside of the homes and outside of the homes. with the Muslims and with the non-Muslims. A lot of the prohibitions, some of them major sins, a lot have become normal behavior with the Muslims, and they were already normal behavior with non-Muslims. Tayyib. He brings the definition of a taqwa. قال طلق ابن حبيب رحمه الله عندما وقعت الفتنة اتقوها بالتقوى. When the fitna jumped off, Talq ibn Habib rahimahullah, he told him, stay away from the fitna based on a taqwa, based on fearing of Allah. Fear Allah and stay away from the fitna. Use the taqwa of Allah as a premise for why you stand away. Out of the taqwa, using taqwa, out of fear of Allah Jalla wa Ala. They said, you got to define that. How do you stay away from something with taqwa, by the fear of Allah? He said, whatever you do, amalun bi ta'atillah. You do your action, you obey Allah based on knowledge. Ala nurin min Allah, based on knowledge. Raja'a thawabillah. Seeking Allah's reward and hoping for Allah's reward when you do it. You know Allah said it's a reward for the person who does this. You do that, believing that the promise is true and that your reward is with Allah. He said on the opposite end, وَتَرْكَ مَعْصِيَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ خِيفَةَ عَذَابِ اللَّهِ. And also, staying away from the haram. As taqwa, fear of Allah, again, is not just being obedient only. It's not just doing the obligations only. So, a brother could pray all 5. That doesn't make it cool for him to hit the corner at night. Because a taqwa is also staying away from the haram. So he can't pray all 5, and he got to touch the mark to show for it. Of course, he's praying. He got a mark on his head, so he's praying. Or she's praying, right? The fact that a person prays all 5 doesn't allow them after Isha to go to the club. That's not a taqwa. A taqwa is both. The obedience, it's obligatory to pray. It's me not doing Allah a favor. It's an obligation. It's for our own benefit. That's one end. And on the other end, to stay away from the haram is from a taqwa. It's twofold. So the fact that the sister covers, right, properly, everything's covered how it's supposed to be covered, it's not a pass for her to talk and to have a mouth like she's a rapper. You know what I'm saying? It's not a pass to say that she can talk to her husband as if they're out on the street somewhere. But she covers properly, which is an obligation, right? Following the obligation of covering. She covers properly, she prays. The fact that a person does obedience is not a green light to disobey Allah in another area. A taqwa is both sides, keeping both in mind. Tayyib. All of these definitions got to be remembered when we go inside of the house, inside of the household. Tayyib. When we look at a taqwa inside of the home, so a taqwa, fear of Allah is the theme, right? Considering all of that. Now, when we deal with the spouses, the husband and the wife, there has to be the idea, and they got to be conscious of fearing Allah and having taqwa when it comes to al-huquq, the rights that each one has on the other. The rights that each one has on the other. So the man has rights over his wife, and she has rights over her husband. The right of the man is an obligation on the woman. Right? If he has a right to something from the woman, that means it's obligatory on her part. If she has a right from her husband, that means that right becomes the obligation of the man. Everybody with me? For example, and last night, Farouk, he mentioned some of the rights that the husband and wife share. Then he mentioned some rights specific to the husband, and then he mentioned some rights specific to the wife. Right? Some rights are shared, some are specific for each side. What is the right of the woman over her husband? Maintenance. Let's use maintenance. Let's use maintenance. What is specific? What is meant by maintenance? Because some people don't understand what maintenance means. Food, clothing, shelter. All right, let's use that one.
The necessities.
Food, clothing, and shelter, the necessities. If that's her right, that means it's obligatory for the man to provide those things. Right? That means it's his obligation. It's his wajib. It's wajib. That means if he doesn't do it, then he's what? Open and under the threat of being punished by Allah Jalla wa Ala. It's an obligation. The salawat, the prayers, are an obligation. If you don't pray, then you open. Allah can punish you. Right? Why? Because you didn't fulfill an obligation. A taqwa is doing what? Obeying Allah. So if we know that she has a right over us, my right is to make sure that she eats. Keep it real simple. Make sure that she eats. Right? Then we understand when dealing with our wives that, okay, this is my obligation. I'm responsible before Allah. Taqwa. Obedience to Allah. Me feeding her is from obedience to Allah. To make sure my wife eats is from obedience to Allah Jalla wa Ala. Making sure that the house is comfortable, right? It's from obedience to Allah. It's an obligation, right? We're not looking at her per se. At the end of the day, a haqq, her right, becomes an obligation for me. Everybody with me? And the opposite is the same. A right on one person means the obligation for the other person. Clear? Then fulfilling obligations, you gotta be mindful of not to oppress somebody, oppression, by withholding what they're supposed to get. By withholding something back that they're entitled to. They're entitled to something by Allah. By Allah, they're entitled to something based on the marriage contract. So based on the marriage contract, they agreed to a dowry. So the brother says, I'll pay it in 3 months. Sister agreed, during the contract. Right? That's her right. That means in 3 months, she's expecting to receive what is due to her, that y'all agreed on. That is her right by Allah, and that becomes an obligation on the man. To withhold that is now oppression by not giving someone their rights. And the opposite goes the same. Between all of the rights between the husband and the wife, it has to be a reminder between the two that, okay, it ain't just about her, about him. That if it's a right, that if it's that right, then it's my obligation to fulfill it. And me fulfilling the obligation is from obedience to Allah Jalla wa Ala. Everybody with me? Tayyib. The same thing, a taqwa, could be said in the way the husband and wife speak to each other. Right? The way they address each other. Everybody with me? That there are many ahadith about guarding the tongue. About guarding the tongue. We know the ayat that the angels are recording everything. All of these things apply inside of the home and outside of the home. They apply with the people in the masjid, and they apply inside of the homes, the wife with her husband and the husband with the wife. That a person has to have a taqwa and know that from a taqwa, as Allah says, وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا, and say a word that is straight, just. Not to go overboard in an argument because you're mad. Anger doesn't give the green light to disobey Allah, brothers and sisters. Anger does not and is not a green light Islamically to be disobedient for any of us. The fact that we're upset about something, the man's upset at his wife, so he goes and he does some act of disobedience. Inside of the home. They're arguing, they're upset, so they just start cursing each other out. Possibly making dua against each other. Anger is not an excuse to disobey Allah Jalla wa Ala. A taqwa, when it comes to a talaq, divorce. Fearing Allah when it comes to divorce and a khula'. To have taqwa of Allah. Amalun bi ta'atillah, right? Obeying Allah, believing in the promise for the one that's obedient, and seeking his reward, right? Staying away from disobedience, fearing the punishment, right? Like, when it comes to divorce in Islam is permissible. It's not haram. But how is divorce described? And we all know the part in peace and part in kindness. Part in kindness. The split up in kindness. Right? If it doesn't work out, that you don't become enemies. That you have fear of Allah Jalla wa Ala. It didn't work out. Of course, people are upset, emotions are running, but it's not a green light to oppress one another. It's not a green light to be oppressive. It's not a green light because she's upset or he's upset that what? As some people do, they want to lock the woman into a marriage. Lock her into a marriage. The marriage not working out, the sister wants a divorce. The brother refuses to divorce. Right? No, I'm not divorcing. She seeks a khula'. No, I'm not giving a khula' either. So, what's the case? She's going to have to deal with it. Is this from a taqwa? Dealing with people? Ittaqillah? Haythuma kunt? Fear Allah wherever you are. You got to consider the meaning of a taqwa in everything. Obedience to Allah, seeking his reward, staying away from the haram, fearing the punishment. That dhulm, oppression, is a form, is a sin. Oppression is a sin. Dhulm is a sin. That it shouldn't be our families, the ones closest to us, push us to disobedience. That we should be trying to save each other. Tayyib. Learning that the brothers is possible. Sometimes the wife is more educated than the brother, than the husband. He doesn't know. Sometimes the husband has more knowledge than the wife. So if you know that your spouse is not as articulate as you are, they're not as polished as you are, that you fear Allah and that you don't get over on them because you know that they don't know. You know that they don't know how to respond, so you talk to them in a way where they can't respond, so you win. Everybody with me, or am I talking? Huh? The brother can't articulate like that. He's not that nice with words. The sister is very nice with words, so she talks over his head until she wins the argument and game's over. She does it intentionally knowing he ain't gonna be able. When I say this, I'm shutting him down with this one. It ain't about being right or wrong, it's about me shutting him down with this last one right here. I know he ain't got enough for this. Or the brother the same way. The same way. You know she's a little sharper than you, so since you can't respond, you start cursing her out. It's not from a taqwa. Right? Or if you sharpening her, that you don't use what you know you have as an advantage over somebody to oppress somebody else. All of this is in the home. All of this got to be thought. What is taqwa? Obedience to Allah, knowing that my reward is with Allah. If I be nice to her and she act crazy anyway, then that's on her. That's her sin. Not, she did this, so I'm going to strike back with this one. As they used to say, 2 wrongs don't make a right. 2 acts of disobedience to Allah Jalla wa Ala don't make either one of those actions obedience. They're still disobedience, whether you did it first, she did it first, that we don't respond to disobedience with more disobedience. Tayyib. In the home, a taqwa with the children. A taqwa with the children. Number 1, that we have to be mindful that we are responsible for our households. We are responsible for our children, knowing the basics of Islam. If our children are in double digits and don't know how to pray, don't know Al-Fatiha, we got to look at what are we doing in our houses, what's important to us. What is important to us in our households? If our children are older and they don't know the basics. We're not talking about memorizing Ajzab, Quran. We're talking about the bare minimum. They don't know how to make wudu. They're 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, don't know how to make wudu. They reach puberty and don't know how to make wudu. We have to know that that's a shortcoming from the parents. That we're missing something. Maybe we're not spending enough time. Maybe we don't know. Sometimes the parents might not know. If we don't know, we need to facilitate atmosphere for our children to know, to make sure they get it. To hold back and not allow our children to be better than we were or better than we are Islamically. With the children, learning that we can't leave our kids to the wolves. We can't expect somebody else to come and teach our children. And we shouldn't. And then if we do that, we get upset if they teach them a mistake. Tell you, why ain't you teaching that? You're not going to teach them, you don't want nobody else to teach them. And the brother mentioned that last night, that about the righteous child making dua after we die, that we should be all shooting for that. Trying to do as much as we can so that our children hopefully will pray for us when we die. Along with that, the raising of the children is a shared responsibility that a man has a part in it and a woman has a part in it. If you don't hold your weight of that responsibility, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that all of you are shepherds and every shepherd is responsible for the flock. And that the man is responsible for his family, and that who? The woman is also responsible. When the man's not there, the woman is responsible, sister. So it's not all on the men, the raising of the children, and it's not all on the women. If they're in the house, same household, if they're not in the same household, even if they're not in the same household, that everybody has a responsibility. If the marriage didn't work out, they got a divorce, like, that's still your child. You're still responsible to the extent that you are able to provide for that child, especially we're talking about now, as far as learning is concerned, and giving them the tools that they need to be a functioning Muslim. That because there's a divorce and the child moves with one of the parents, it doesn't relieve the other parent of all contact and teaching, and it doesn't remove, that responsibility is not removed. That everybody has a responsibility. Allah made the marriage between a man and a woman. There are qualities that young boys need to see from their father. Just like there are qualities that young girls need to see from their mother. There are qualities that young boys need to see from their mother. That a young man, a boy, will look at his mother and generally gauge Huh? Is this the type of woman he's going to marry? What his mother does basically is what's expected for a woman to do. He expects for a woman to do what he sees. It's learning. It's just learning by watching. The daughter watches the father. What does her father do? She's learning. They're all learning. Everybody's responsible. If my father's not here, he doesn't live with me. But he makes sure this happens and this happens and this happens. That's his on him. It's his daughter or it's his son, whoever it is. That the fact that a marriage doesn't work out, brothers, sisters, the fact that the marriage didn't work out doesn't relieve the duty. It doesn't erase your duty as a parent. That's still your child. You're still responsible. Alhamdulillah. You're still responsible. That's if they're split. If they're in the same house. The fact that generally, and I don't even know if this is even, the fact that a man works a double every day, that's not an excuse not to teach his children. That's not an excuse for him to say, well, you home all day, why you ain't teaching? Maybe she doesn't know. Maybe she didn't get time to do it. It's not an excuse. The opposite, because a woman might work too. She might be working. Now, who's going to be to blame if the husband is working and the wife is working? Who's going to point the finger at who? We're going to turn and say, huh? Well, the best place for the woman is in the house anyway, so we're going to find a way. We're going to find a way to make it her problem. Right? Well, you don't really need to work anyway, so you can stay home and teach and play. Now when she does that and she still comes up short, it's not all her responsibility. That's a shared responsibility. And everybody has to fear Allah and know that the reward is with Allah. It's from obedience. As the Prophet ﷺ told us, every person is responsible for their flock, and that every person will be asked about their flock. Every person's going to be asked about it. So it's a responsibility that we have to know, okay, this is my obligation. I know my reward is with Allah. I need to find a way to do it. I need to find a way to do it. From the man's side, from the woman's side. That I know that this is my obligation. This is a command from Allah or from His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I have to make sure I do it knowing my reward is with Allah. This is implementing the taqwa between the spouses inside of the home. It's not a one-sided, lopsided type of thing. Allah forgive us for falling short. Tayyib. When it comes to the children, the taqwa. And again, if we don't know, then we need to facilitate and make sure that we put our kids in a situation where they can learn it. That our children deal with each other. That we don't allow our children to oppress one another. Do children oppress one another? Huh? Or is this, how? What's a common way that children inside of the home oppress one another? Fighting. But how does it start? Arguing about what? Taking something. Who taking from who? Generally. The older one is taken from the younger one. Or the stronger one is taken from the weaker one. Intentionally. Right? And from that, it's an argument. And then, I'm older anyway, so if you really want to take it there, we can fight. I'll take, I'll win that. Right? Based on, I know I'm stronger, you can't beat me, and this is what I'm doing. That's totally unacceptable. Right? It's unacceptable. And it's not a way for a child to carry on because they take that and they go outside with it. They take that and they go outside with that until they meet the wrong one. and then it's either them or them. Between the kids, that the fact that this one is older, it doesn't necessitate that he or she is right. The fact that the older one can talk fast and articulate a little better doesn't necessitate that they're right. Right? That you gotta be honest and just and fair between the two. The fact that for a man, nothing. Your daughter and your son are arguing. The fact that your daughter is crying and you hate to see your daughter crying doesn't mean she's not wrong in the situation. So it don't mean you could just, put all the blame on the boy without right because she's crying. She's upset, so you're upset. It doesn't necessitate that that's correct. That's emotionally, yeah. But being fair. And the kids, they only learn what they're being taught in the house. That's the first school, as they say. That the woman usually is the first teacher. That the kids, we have to make sure that we're giving our kids basic Islamic etiquette. What should you do? What shouldn't you do? Why not? But what happens when you do it the wrong way? Basic stuff. All this stuff is 101. This is not stuff that you can't pick up a book in your house and read together with your children. These type of things. For the one, if they are conscious, of having taqwa when dealing with their wives, their wife with the husband, dealing with the children dealing with each other. Allah told us in the Quran that there are numerous benefits for the people who fear Allah Jalla wa Ala. Numerous benefits. قال تعالى ومن يتق الله يجعل له من أمره يسرا. Assalamu alaikum. Whoever fears Allah, that Allah will make the things easy for him. Simple. Have fear of Allah, and Allah will make things in your life easy. Simple. Things in life come easy based on what? A taqwa. Based on a person consciously saying to themselves, I'm going to do it like this because this is what Allah said in the Quran and this is how we're supposed to do it. And if you do it like this, this is the reward. Based on that approach, based on the approach in the household is that, okay, this is found in the Quran. This is what Allah said in the Quran. We're supposed to do it like this, so let's do it like this. This is what the Sunnah says. The Prophet ﷺ said in the Hadith, right inside Bukhari, we read it together. Let's do it like this. Let's do it like the Hadith says. Let's fear Allah like it says in the Hadith. Let's just do it just like this, like the Messenger ﷺ did. For the one who does that, Allah said, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. That He will make for the other one, whoever fears Allah, Allah will make things easy for him. Making things easy. Allah said in another ayat, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Whoever fears Allah, then Allah will make for that person an exit from difficulties. When things get tight and difficult, Allah will make a way out for a person based on their fear of Allah. And then He said, and Allah will provide from them from avenues that they didn't even think about. Sometimes, I didn't know how I was going to get the money for the rent. Right? I was hurting. I was in the jam. Alhamdulillah. Right? All of these things are basics that have to be inside of the household. We're supposed to get a third person, the arbitrator. Right? The husband and wife can't come to an agreement, they have an argument. Get an arbitrator from each side. Right? Man, I ain't doing all that. I ain't doing all that. Arbitrator from each side. I ain't doing all that. I'm done. Right? Taqwa. Implement the ayah. Implement the Quran. implement the guidance from the best book on earth, Kalam Allah, use the medicine as it's supposed to be used. Bring from each side. Don't necessitate it's going to work out, but follow the path. Follow the path, knowing that what? I'm following the Quran. The Quran, Allah taught us how to do it. We bring someone from your side, bring someone, we sit down, we try to talk it out. At the least, even if it doesn't work, at the least, I know that I did what? I did the best that I could do in following the guidance. I took all of the possible steps to do it the way that Allah Jalla wa'ala told us to do it. It wasn't me. It wasn't me trying not to make it work. I was trying to make it work. Get an arbitration, so that's what we did. I wanted to do this. She didn't want to do it. She didn't want to talk. Or he didn't want to talk. Because that's the problem. A lot of times that's from the brothers. They don't want to talk. You mean they don't want to talk? They don't want everybody in their business. Tell you, what we going to do with the ayah? Bring one from each side so we can sit down and hash things out. I don't want anybody in my business like that. Tell you, what we going to do? I'm done. Taqwa. Use the ayah as Allah told us, unless you think that your way is better. It's Kalam Allah. It's the book of Allah. Use the guidance unless you have a better way. Nobody's going to say they have a better way. I'll tell you, we'll use it. We have to use it. Allah said, Inna lil muttaqina mafaza. That success is for those who have taqwa. Those who have taqwa are the successful ones. Yawm al-Qiyamah. Those who are obedient, knowing that Allah's reward is true, so they obey Allah and they stay away from the haram, knowing that Allah's punishment is true. Allah said for those people is the success Yawm al-Qiyamah. And this is with the wife with the husband, wife with the children, husband with the children, children with the parents. Nobody's excluded from obedience to Allah Jalla wa'ala. Right? And if we're dealing with each other inside of our houses, knowing that, because one thing's for sure, and we all know this. Correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong. But generally, brothers and sisters are not coming to the masjid acting crazy. They're not coming to the masjid showing their worst behavior. Right? So, generally, everybody comes and everybody's, mashallah. Good brother, good sister. Right? No signs of nothing. No signs of anything negative. Right? But when is the time to let that out? In the house? With the people that we spend most of our time with? That a taqwa is for inside of the masjid, at work, home, in the car. It's for everywhere. In the restaurant, walking through the mall, shopping. There's no time when we get a pass and say, all right, well, since we're here, let's just do this. We don't get that. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ittaqillah haythu ma kunt. Fear Allah wherever you are. Wherever you are, obey Allah and know that the reward for obeying Allah is what it is. That your reward is with Allah. Obey Allah and stay away from disobedience, knowing that what? The threat and the punishment is real. Wherever we are. Not just when we sitting here amongst each other and then we can get up and leave from here and mistakenly think that we have a green light to do something haram. I sat in 2 classes this week, so I'm gonna just shoot down to some place that I shouldn't be going, that I know I shouldn't be going to. But I sat in 2 classes, I was at the lecture all weekend. So now, I'm taking a break. That's dangerous. Taking a break from what? Worship. There is no break from obedience. There is no break. There is no break from being obedient to Allah. That our lives, Allah created us for what? Worship. Our lives, Allah created us for worship. Allah told us in the Quran that He created life and death to see who will be the best. Right? It's a test. We don't get a break. There's no break in the test. You got to finish the whole test. When you finish the whole test, you get your results. There is no break. There is no, I can do this because I fasted all of Ramadan. I prayed Jummah today and all 5 prayers, so now I can do this. There is none of that. There is no, Allah forgive us and protect us. I mean, there is no brothers and sisters going to a place where nobody knows you, because nobody knows you in that place, to go there and openly disobey Allah and think because nobody knows me here that I'm good. It's a huge, huge mistake. As if Allah is not Al-Basir, as if Allah is not the all-seeing, Al-Alim, the all-knowing, as if Allah doesn't know everything that we do and everything that we say. We don't have a weekend break. We're going here for the weekend and we're going to do what we're going to do for the weekend. As if the angels are not recording that weekend. The angels don't record in Miami. Is it a specific place where the angels don't record? They don't record on the cruise ship. Huh? The angels don't stop recording. The Prophet ﷺ told us when the angels stop recording. Does anybody know? Huh? 2 times he mentioned in the hadith. We'll leave that for homework. 2 times. Neither one of them are on a vacation to Cali. Neither one of them are on an island for the weekend. That's not from the 2 times when the Prophet ﷺ told the angels not, and that they don't leave a person's side, rather. That they don't leave a person's side. That we don't have a time for it, that we have a past to stop. Dog. What? You told him, that was homework. Everybody heard that? Huh? Who didn't hear it? If you didn't hear it, it's still homework. That's all I want to say. If you didn't hear it, look it up. Tayyib. All of these things are considered the rewards for fearing Allah. And this is specifically dealing with in our households, that we try to be upright inside of the home. That's why the Sahaba, the companions, they went and they asked who? About the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Huh? Who did they ask? The Sahaba. How was he in the house? They went to his wife and asked his wife, Aisha, radiallahu anha. You can do all that stuff in the masjid. All of that. It looks good, mashallah. Inshallah, sincere. They went and they asked Aisha, how is he in the house, in his home now? When we can't see him and the shades go down and the door's locked and everybody goes back to where, what was he doing then? They want to, is it the same or what? Like what is he busy with in the house? What is he busy with? Huh? She said, khuluquhu al-Quran. He behaved like he was instructed to behave in the Quran. Nothing changed. When the blinds go down, it don't change. When the blinds go down, brothers, it doesn't change. Nothing changes. It shouldn't change. We don't light switch. I'm the Aki, I'm not the Aki. I'm Dean, hold up. Not Islamically, no. What people do, that's one thing. Islamically, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran and the Sunnah, no, that don't exist. Ignorant Muslims who don't know, yeah, that exists with them. That exists with them. I'm Deaning, but I ain't Deaning right now. That exists with people who don't have the proper Islamic knowledge. So they assume that, it's optional. Being upright is optional. I'm good as Friday, but this weekend, that's something else. But the Muslim who knows the guidance found in the Quran and some of the Prophets say, that's not an option. That doesn't exist in Islam. That I can turn on the light switch of when I want to be obedient and when I don't. When I'm obeying Allah and I'm not. That doesn't exist. Not for the brothers, not for the sisters. That exists for people who don't know. That exists for people with weak iman. May Allah protect us all. For the person who knows Allah and knows the Quran and knows the Sunnah and knows the seriousness of it, that doesn't exist. Taqwa, as the Prophet ﷺ said, haythu ma kunt. Wherever you are, fear Allah wherever you are. Not just in this space and in another place you can do what you want to do. And Allah forgive us. We'll stop there, inshallah ta'ala. We'll stop there. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.